Welcome back to another Q&A and case study with yours truly and my good friend Paco Farias. We are excited to break down this case study. This one, uh, I was just saying before we started recording this one that as I was reading through it, I was like, these are the type of founders. And if the individual is happened to be watching this, I know what I'm going to stand by it. These are the type of individuals. Usually, when they come in and they give me these scenarios, they break down their business and kind of where they are at as the CEO and founder. First thing I do is I usually kick them in the ass. It's just the way it is. All right, and it's fine in a way because I want them to succeed. It's not like no one's mad at them, but we'll break it down on why I feel that way. So I'm excited about this one. Everybody's going to get a lot out of this one. So without further ado, let's. Oh, I almost hit remove. Here we go. All right. I founded my engineering company 20 years ago. Through hard work and dedication, we have grown our customer base conservatively as I have a guiding principle. First of all, I love businesses that have guiding principles. Those are so important. It's more important that you stick by them, but it's important that you have them. Guiding principle where growth will not hinder quality nor customer service. Beautiful. Most decisions are being done by me. I am highly stressed out, but I just can't find a way to delegate most of the work as I am the one that sees the big picture. I know I need help, but I just can't let go of being both the chief engineering officer, the chief operating officer, and a new role that I've never heard of before, the chimed sales officer. There's a typo, chief sales officer. Hell, my title is CEO and founder, but in hindsight, I don't even know if I truly do CEO work. Yeah, a lot of people, yeah, that's a big pain point with a lot of them. I'm starting to see that I need to have a succession plan and also need people I can trust. I have tried a couple times to hire those, and they highly disappointed me. I'm stuck. I'm going to start out. You mind if I start out this one?
Go for it.
And I'm going to start out in the place where I would kick this individual in the ass, which is that second last sentence was I have tried a couple times to hire those and they highly disappointed me. No, you highly disappointed them. You did not know who you were hiring. You did not define clearly who would be successful in that role. Therefore, you could not create an avatar on who would be successful in that role. Therefore, you hired somebody and set them up for failure because they weren't supposed to be in the role to begin with. That's where I would kick you in the ass. Take responsibility for that. It drives me nuts when founders, leaders, executives, whatever, do not take responsibility for the failure of the people that they hire. It is not on them. It is on you. You know, the pushback I usually get, as you can see, I'm fired up about that. Paco's like, yeah, fucking give them. This is kind of the when I challenge these leaders on this, they go down the same track. Every single one of them done it 100 times. They say, well, you know, they didn't have the skill set that I thought they had. They didn't interview properly. You know, they kind of they tricked me or whatever it was. Okay, so your interview process is not, it's faulty. You didn't do enough. If you're hiring for like a C-suite or VP or director level, this whole concept of like you only need one interview is bullshit. Anybody can trick anybody. Anybody can be anybody for one interview. Did you interview them multiple times? Was your interview, did you put them in positions where they could have showed their true colors? That's why I really like an interview. It's called the Skills, Wills, and Bullseye interview. An example of one of these that I've done before is I had this person come in. This would have been their third or fourth interview. They came into the office. I met them at the door, and I was like, sorry, we're going to do this one on the road. I packed them up in my truck. I'm like, I got to go get some dry cleaning. I've never been in a dry cleaner in my life. But we just drove around the city. We just drove around Las Vegas. Right. I did a couple chores. Right. And I talked to them. I saw how they were in public. I saw how they interacted with people. I got to ask them a little bit. Their guard kind of came down because they're not in that, office environment. They're not on a Zoom call. I can see that they're actually wearing pants and this kind of stuff. So I got to see who this person really was. And I didn't like what I saw. And I did this a few times. And I didn't like what I saw because I didn't like how they interacted with people. They didn't look people in the eyes. They didn't shake hands. How they interacted with there's one guy I took out for dinner. I didn't like the way he interacted with the server. And you get to see how people really are. I'm not saying you have to do those specific things, but what I'm saying is set up your interview process for these key player roles so that you can have your best chance of identifying who that is. But first thing you have to do is identify who that person is, who's more likely to be successful in this role. Really clearly define this role, and not just the bells and whistles, the buttons that they have to press, the daily activities that they have to do. What does this role need to accomplish? Am I hiring this person so they can run a team, a current team that's in place, or am I hiring this person to grow and build a team? those are two different things. Those are two different skill sets. Those are two different characteristics and attributes that somebody needs. Identify that. And let's say they get all the way through that. Okay, then you don't have the processes set up. You don't have that role clearly set up for long-term success. Maybe you didn't, onboard them properly or long enough or whatever it was. But there's always something that you could have done better. There's always something you could improve upon. So never, when you're hiring somebody in a key role, it's never their fault. It might seem like it, and it might feel better, but it's not. Because if you put it on yourself and not on them, it gives you the insight and the hindsight to improve, and therefore try again, reiterate. We've talked about this before in other scenarios when we're talking about strategy, right? In an adaptive market environment, you're always experimenting and trying again. Something doesn't work. It's not because your product sucks. It's not because the market doesn't know any better. It's not because the problem's not there. It's because you didn't create a product. You didn't market it. You didn't message it properly. You hired somebody that didn't work out. Your interview process was off. You didn't identify who would be successful in that role. You didn't properly identify what they're supposed to accomplish in that role. Put it on you. Otherwise, you're just not going to try again. Sorry, I had to get that out of my system.
I love it. +1. So that makes sense to me. Everything you said. No, I know this company, been working with them, developed a pretty good relationship with them, and the founder has what is described as the founder syndrome. Of course, we could spend hours on that. I'm going to look at just one view of what founder syndrome is, which is I am the only one who understands myself. I'm the only one who understands my idea. I'm the only one that truly understands what we need to do. So at the beginning of a company, I totally understand. Nowadays in social media, you can read about one individual recently that wrote about founder mode and that companies need to go back to founder mode, all that stuff. Yes, of course, founder mode is good because you are the founder. You are the one. You care. All that stuff is good because if not, bureaucracy goes in there and all sorts of politics and all sorts of other stuff. But as you correctly said, a lot of this is about ownership and learning how to infuse ownership with others in such a way that they do not feel that they're your employees. They think that they are co-owners of the company in one way or the other. Now, it sounds easier said than done, because if they're really just your employees and you're not giving them anything, any skin in the game, any equity, any nothing, yes, it's a nice term, but really they will just be your employee. But if your leadership team, there's any way where you can give them a little bit of skin in the game so that they feel co-owners with you, or there's something that you can do with that, something changes and clicks in our brains where you can, and I love how you said it, they have to own their issues. So you hired somebody, don't expect the person, and because that happens in founder syndrome a lot, they believe that because they found them, the person, and they hired them, the person is great. Again, because I'll be honest, it gets to a point where your ego is not your amigo. We've talked about this many times. And for founders, my friends, amigo is friend in Spanish, for those that you may know. But the point here is ego is your worst enemy. It can be a good ally if you're utilizing the right way to push yourself and push others and keep going. That's okay. But when it's getting to a place of complacency, where you're thinking that everyone's against you, or when you're thinking that nobody's good enough, I'm so sorry. The one that is not good enough is you, because you're not allowing yourself to expand that ownership with others. So seek help, my friend. There's a lot of help here. There's a lot of different individuals, but the very first thing you need to do is step out of your own mini echo chamber with yourself.
Yeah, and the last, I'll give some other advice other than on my own little rant. There is, you've been in business for 20 years, and it seems like it's been 20 years of you at the helm. It's been 20 years of you making all the decisions and not being able to trust a lot of other people, and that's like 20 years in real life, but it's like 60 years off of your mind and your health and these types of things, right? So one thing that has really helped, and this has been kind of even an eye-opener for me, is when you're in this position, you're so in the weeds, your biases are at full, the wall, your bias walls are 10 feet thick by this point, and it's hard for you. The more time, the more years that you're in this, the more you see these problems, the more you're just kind of in this your own little bubble. It's really hard to see outside of that. It's hard to take a different objective view.
Mm-hmm.
Is to shift your mindset, and even if it's just as in practice to start. And I know that you might not want to be selling your business, but I want you to look at your business from a buyer's perspective, from a valuation perspective.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the one who's at the helm making all the decisions, you would be considered a highly volatile piece of the business. So you being in place, you needing to be in place, would lower the value of your business.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you even had a number two or two other key players that if they left, everything would go out the window. Like there's so much in their mind, the value of your business would drop. Mm-hmm. You don't have SOPs, you don't have standard operating procedures that, when followed, have proof of when followed, lead to successful outcomes. If you do not have that, the value of your business drops. So if looking from the perspective of a buyer, what do buyers look for in a business? They look for consistent growth, consistent financials, healthy financials, and a business that could eliminate the top two layers of leadership. Depends on the size of the business. It sounds like yours, two layers of leadership probably would be fine. If you're a bigger business, maybe 3 layers of leadership. If you were to remove those, would the business operate? Basically, can you and your key players, can you go on holiday without everything falling apart? Can you go on a week offsite and everything still run accordingly? And if the answer is no, if you're gone for 2, 3, 4 weeks and everything falls apart, the value of your business drops. So looking at your business from the perspective of a buyer, okay, and that is having hiring. We talked about, I went on a rant, I won't go on anymore, but having hiring process, how to identify who the right people are, where do we find them, how do we bring them in, how do we interview them, how do we onboard them, and how do we decrease that ramp up time, which is the time from when you hire them to when they are hitting level metrics or bare minimum metrics, basically, is that ramp up time. Mm-hmm. So having all these in place, looking it up from that buyer's perspective, and practice looking at it from that buyer's perspective, because I'm not going to say you're going to sit here and be like, oh, okay, I'll look at it, and then look at your business, and all of a sudden you're going to see all the problems. You have to practice this. This takes time, and it takes maybe having conversations with individuals like Paco or myself, or even like doing a free consult with an M&A expert. I find that really is kind of a little cheat code. But taking that third party, that third party view, objective view of your business, and you'll notice a lot of things. Then if you base how your business is doing, how your business is thriving off of how would I value my business as a buyer, I think that'll shine a light on a lot of things for you.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Feel good?
Feels great.
I feel good. Didn't mean to shit on you too much, but really grinds from, in the words of Peter Griffin, it really grinds my gears. But thank you so much for submitting this one, and thank you everybody who watched this one, and we will see you in the next one.
See you soon.
That guy's not gonna try to hunt me down and